Ang susunod na programa ay rated PG. Ito ay nangangailangan ng patnubay at gabay ng magulang para sa mga batang manunood.
Itinataguyod ang malasakit sa isa't isa. ABS-CBN News.
Gitna lang, kasi magkaob tayo.
Yung papasukin natin na lugar, mas ligtas kung hindi tayo makikitang pumupunta ron. Kaya ito, nagpaabot muna kami ng dilim bago pasukin ang lugar na yun.
Kaya hindi sir magagabi? Kaya, ito yun. Oo nga sir, kung daw tayo, tako lang.
Yung mga barko natin, dito natin tinatago. We consider this place classified. Kasi pag nagpatrolya yung mga kaibigan natin dyan sa kabila, hindi makita kami lugar na ito. Same time, doon sa puerto, wala sila makita na barko doon, hindi nandito lahat. So, dito din kayo manggaling, bali hatiin yung grupo sa dalawang grupo. So, you distribute among yourselves na lang at least 30 hours papunta doon sa pupuntahan nyo. Sabihin natin, 3 to 5 days maximum.
Somewhere in the middle of the West Philippine Sea, a small Navy ship is going off on a big mission. The ship, named the AM-700, has with it some food, supplies, and soldiers to replace troops staying in a far-off place called Ayungin Shoal. Ayungin is 106 nautical miles away from the main island of Palawan. 1 nautical mile is almost 2 kilometers.
Nasa vicinity na tayo. Kasi tinanong ko sila, ang estimated nila, 10 o'clock, nasa sunod tayo. No more or less, may makikita na tayo mga ships.
Journalists were invited on board. They say Philippine ships were being stopped from sailing forward.
Kaya namin tinatanong, sir, kasi kailangan namin malaman kung saan punto kami magpapato ng storya ng inakaras na yun.
But how could anyone tell what harassment looked like in the open sea? The media asked Lieutenant Ferdinand Gato, the head of the Ayungin mission, to paint us the picture.
Kailangan makita na naka-obstruct na vessel nila. Obstruction. Para masabi natin na ayaw nila tayo papasukin. Pag nag-chase course tayo, tapos bumalik sila doon, nag-change course tayo ulit, pwede na kayo magpatang.
For more than 30 hours, there was nothing else to see but water. It felt like no one else was out there but us. But that feeling ended rather abruptly.
Distance sir, 7.5 sir, sa Kote sir.
Pero bakit parang patungo yata sa atin, sir?
It looked like a dot on the horizon at first.
Anong distance, sir?
7.1 nautical mile.
Ang course natin, ma'am, 255, ma'am. Tapos ang course naman niya, ma'am, si Rate 7, ma'am. Magkasalubong tayong dalawa, ma'am.
Kaparehas na yung mga dating nakita.
Yan yung naka-encuentro mo ng resupply.
Mas malaki ito, mas malaki.
Grabing lapit na, oh.
But as it came closer,
Distance to 3401. 1.9 nautical miles, RCP 1.6 nautical miles.
that unassuming dot became a large Chinese ship.
Halos 2 oras na lang ang layo natin papunta sa Ayungin Shoal. Pero may nakita ngayon yung Navy na puting barko na malaki at mabilis ang andar papunta sa atin.
Distance to 3401 sa Port South. 1 nautical miles, RCP 1,000.
And it wasn't the only one there.
May isa pa ako.
Oh, yun o.
A second Chinese Coast Guard ship appeared ahead. And over the radio, it sent a stern warning to the AM-700.
Baby ship, your access here has infringed upon the laws of the People's Republic of China. We order you immediately stop all illegal activities and leave this area. Over.
But the mission head of the Philippines was determined to push on.
This is Republic of the Philippines ship. We are here to reprovision our personnel aboard Republic of the Philippines ship number 57. Over.
This big white vessel right in front of us is from the China Coast Guard. It made a turn and now it's headed straight for our path.
When neither ship gave in, the cat and mouse game began. People in Manila and the rest of the country had no idea that while their life went on as usual, a tense standoff was already going on here in the remote Spratlys in what the Philippines calls the Kalayaan Island Group.
Sector dari mana?
Very close. This close.
Very tense.
This is vessel 3401 of the China Coast Guard. It's been radioing us repeatedly, asking us to leave this area because according to them, this is part of the sovereign territory of China. There is a man on top of that boat making hand gestures, asking us basically to go away.
After blocking the AM-700's path, the Chinese ship maneuvered dangerously close to the much smaller vessel and then turned sharply to the left in a second attempt to intercept the Philippine ship.
Plus 63.
The Filipino sailors had to pull a complete stop and then waited. When the Chinese ship moved past them, the crew deftly maneuvered away and sailed on towards the shallower waters of Ayungin Shoal. The Chinese ships could no longer reach them. And the AM-700 was free to approach the BRP Sierra Madre, the decrepit old ship that serves as home to the soldiers guarding Ayungin. By the sheer length of their beards, one could tell that these men have been here longer than they should. Sergeant Edwin Galvan, their corpsman, said they were watching the whole time the AM-700 was being chased.
Sabi nga namin, mukhang malabo naman tayo yata masundo. Pabalik na naman yata sila ng puerto. Sabi ko, kaya yan. Kasi nandiyan na rin sa bungad yan.
O tapos nakita nyo ng dumiretso doon sa...
Nagpalakpakan na kami, ma'am. Pasok na yan. Sabi, pag pumunta ng bahura yan, hindi na susunod yung Coast Guard.
Sir, dali lang ha.
Huwag nilahin yung ano, pahulog na yan.
Itong part na to, yun ang tulugan ninyo, sir.
Ma'am, dito sa ano?
Ilang kayo dito, sir?
These 9 Marines were supposed to be here for only 3 months, but it took 5 months before any Philippine vessel could penetrate the Chinese blockade. They almost ran out of food. The Philippine military was forced to drop rations from the air.
Saan nyo kinuha yung...
They spent their Christmas here, with no lights, no outside communication. They do have television, but only if their generator has fuel. They've turned a dark cabin into what looks like a gym, while outside, they get to hang out with the best possible view. Technical Sergeant Joselito Panganiban is the team's radio man.
Mga aming aliwan dito, yung minsan magtong-its, barbel, magbasa ng Bible. Yan ang aliwan ko dito, ma'am.
Tama sir, exactly.
First Lieutenant Mike Pilotera is the team's leader.
We are defending our positions. Yung insul is our positions. Handa namin ibigay yung 100% ng buhay namin dito. Kasi ito atin ito.
Uy, kamay! No!
It's not hard to see that life is miserable out here in the Sierra Madre, but not a single soldier would admit to that. It is only through these old writings on the wall that one can see an honest sense of what soldiers out here truly feel.
Dapat ma-overcome mo ang lahat. Especially yung kalungkutan dito kasi siyempre isolated, di ba? Ito, ginagawa namin to para sa country talaga. For the country's prosperity. Siguro naman alam niyo na rin kung bakit anong meron dito.
The whole time that the AM-700 was in Ayungin Shoal, the Chinese vessels circled the vicinity, just lurking. What has made China so aggressive in this part of the sea? This recent tension in the South China Sea actually started in the 1970s. China made a move to occupy the Paracel Islands, then being held by Vietnam. Foreign Affairs Assistant Secretary Henry Bensurto Jr. recalls that since then, China began occupying more and more areas that crept closer and closer to the Philippines.
Mula doon sa Paracels, mga a decade after, mga 80s na, nangyari uli. Yung bansang China, pumunta doon sa isang mga features na tinatawag ng Fiery Cross Reef, Johnson Reef. Again, sa pamamagitan ng dahas, pinaalis nila yung mga Vietnamese. This time, maraming namatay na sundalo ng Vietnam. Noong 1990s, it was our turn.
In 1995, the Philippines discovered wooden huts built by China in the Mischief Reef, known to Filipinos as Panganiban Reef. Mischief is only 127 nautical miles from mainland Palawan, but both the Philippines and China are claiming it.
Tinanong natin ng bansang China, bakit kayo naglagay ng kubo dyan? Ang sagot po sa atin, hindi naman military garrison yan. Ano lang po yan? Sanctuary para sa mga mangingisda. Over a period of 3 years, yung Nipa Hut, ngayong konkreto na. Konkreto na maraming armas, na may pier at military garrison. Hindi na po mangingisda yung nandun, naka-uniforming sundalo na po.
Only one more place stands between Panganiban Reef and mainland Palawan, and that is Ayungin Shoal. And so in an unorthodox move designed to prevent China from advancing further, the Philippine government in 1999 deliberately ran the BRP Sierra Madre aground, leaving it to stand guard in Ayungin Shoal.
Many people describe the state of the Philippine troops here as pitiful and even a little embarrassing. But that's far from what the soldiers themselves feel. They say that for as long as there's a territorial dispute, all that matters to them is that they're here, no matter what conditions they live in.
The BRP Sierra Madre has been in Ayungin Shoal for 15 years now, defenseless against time and the elements. But despite its sorry state, the Sierra Madre has nothing to be sorry about. Because out here, it is defending the Philippines in a way that nothing else does. What exactly is it about the West Philippine Sea that compels the Philippines and other countries to fight so hard for it? It will be days before these townfolk will even catch sight of their island home. Pag-Asa is the farthest barangay or village from mainland Palawan where they all came from. Any moment now, and the MV Queen Seagull will be heading out to sea. Nearly everyone on board is a resident of an island they call Pag-Asa, which means hope. They're all going home, but it'll take them 4 days to get there. Pag-Asa is one of the 9 areas occupied by Filipinos in the West Philippine Sea. The rest include Ayungin Shoal, Rizal Reef, and the islands of Lawak, Patag, Kota, Panata, Likas, and Parola. All these make up the Philippine municipality called Kalayaan, or the Kalayaan Island Group. Kalayaan is established in 1978 by way of Presidential Decree 1596, signed by the former late President Ferdinand Marcos. The Armed Forces of the Philippines conducts regular maritime patrols in the air. To monitor the movements of other claimant countries in Kalayaan. Maritime patrols also allow them to check on Philippine vessels navigating through the West Philippine Sea, just like the MV Queen Seagull. Aboard the Queen Seagull is the mayor of Kalayaan Municipality, Eugenio Bitonon Jr. With him are the other officials of the town's local government. There are no offices out at sea, so the mayor and his staff slumped down on the ship's front deck just so they could work. Perhaps this is how life is when you govern a town that has more water in it than actual land you can stand on. The mayor is checking on every little detail of the voyage. And he should, because nearly the entire population of his town is on board this ship. It will be days before these townfolk will even catch sight of their island home. Pag-Asa is the farthest barangay or village from mainland Palawan where they all came from. It is the poorest in the country with the least number of people inhabiting it. Pag-Asa Island is also the only part of Kalayaan where civilians actually live. The rest are controlled by the military. Pag-Asa Island's population, 288. Their way of life, extremely slow, and more often than not, the silence could be deafening. It was 1947 when Filipino businessman Tomas Cloma first set foot on one of the islands in the Spratlys. By his account, the islands were uninhabited, and so in 1956 he claimed ownership of them and called the place Freedom Territory or Freedom Land. In 1974, Marcos threw Cloma in jail, forcing the businessman to give up his claim of the islands for a whopping 1 peso. 5 other countries are each claiming part of the Spratly Islands. There is Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, Taiwan, and China, who believes it owns not just the entire Spratlys, but almost the entire South China Sea, including the West Philippine Sea at that. The overlapping claims prompted the Philippine government to try and strengthen its own hold on the Spratlys. In 2002, the Kalayaan municipality decided to establish a civilian community on Pag-Asa Island. Witnesses to the first voyage of civilians said it was a scene straight out of the Bible. Like Noah's Ark, people filled the ship with animals, soil, and anything they could possibly need to survive on the desolate island. Many families were separated that day. Mothers and children were left to continue life on mainland Palawan, while their husbands and fathers took the leap of faith for them. One of the men who said yes to living in Pag-Asa was the much younger Eugenio Bitonon Jr. He was still the planning officer then and would only become mayor in recent years.
Nakarating tayo dito sa Kalayaan ng pag-iwasay at walang naging problema.
No one knew for sure if civilians would survive far from the life that they were used to. They tried, and they succeeded. Until now, going to and from Pag-Asa Island remains a struggle for these civilians. But they're still here, a community constantly trying to reach for hope, no matter how far away it seems. What awaits the mayor and the residents on Pag-Asa Island? Pag-Asa Island is riddled with remnants of its past as a fully militarized zone.
Wow!
Ayan na mga rivets. Yung yan mo, yung ano niya ma'am.
Bakit kaya napabayaan ko, sir?
Matagal na rin na nito. Yung isa ko nakausap dito na yun. Pero unti-unti kasi ito nasira kami. Saka walang piyesa lang.
Hindi na na-maintain.
Hindi na na-maintain lang.
Solid.
Kaya nito ma'am, Philippine Coast Guard. Yung POS nila.
Ano bang kwento nito, sir, mga sulat na?
Nilaglagyan na ng marker pag may ibang tropa na aboard dito. Dati na-assign pa dito si Sarge, ganyan.
Soldiers who once defended its shores have left their names on the island. Others have left messages to give new soldiers a glimpse of struggles to come.
Ito, inilabas na niya yung lungkot niya.
Motto, keep yourself busy. Ayun. Yan ang ma'am. Kasi totoo siya, ma'am. Niya, ma'am, kung lagi ka naman talaga may ginagawa, ma'am, hindi ka baburyo. Hindi ka makaramdam na lungkot.
What does it mean for a soldier to be deployed to an island like this?
Ito kaya yung unang tropang pumunta rito, sir?
Marine Sergeant Frank Soliva is one of the newest defenders of Pag-Asa.
Notice to the whole world, be it known that the Republic of the Philippines was established its claim on this and inhabited. This island is known as Pag-Asa by the virtue of its actual occupation. Ito ang 1971.
Wow!
In case Pag-Asa Island is attacked, Sarge and his men will be the ones to stand against the enemy.
Actually, ma'am, ang katungkulan namin dito, ma'am, is yung iman itong Isla, ma'am. Dahil may mga civilian na tayo ng mga community dito, ma'am. So, kailangan din nila ng security, ma'am.
But really, nothing of the sort has ever happened here. Life is quiet on Pag-Asa Island, maybe even a little too quiet. One of the biggest challenges in living in an isolated island like this is coping with the loneliness and desolation. That's why both soldiers and civilians alike find their own ways to ease the boredom. And one way that they do that is through exercise. So they dance to their outdated music with their obsolete dance moves. Obviously, it takes a while before the latest trends reach Pag-Asa, so you can't be too picky if you want to survive here.
Nung unang dating dito, siyempre number one manibago. Kasi malima dito kaunting tao. Walang mall. Walang Jollibee. So hindi man tayo makatikim ng malamig na tubig kasi wala man dito yung na kuryente. Medyo may kalungkutan konti, ma'am. Pero hindi naman totally malungkot. Bago lang siguro, ma'am. Pero after 1 week, 2 weeks, adjust naman. Okay naman.
Part of Sergeant Soliva's duties in Pag-Asa is to catch food for his fellow soldiers.
Mga ilang minuto mong hinuli lahat yan?
Mga sir, ma'am, 45 minutes. Ito, ma'am, ito, mulmul. Mulmul, ito, lapu-lapu. Tapos ito, pagi. Ito, ma'am, yung may dilaw at saka yung itim. Pares sa ma'am yung labahita.
Bakit alam na lahat ng pangalan yan, sir?
Dito ko rin natutunan, ma'am.
Dito mo na rin natutunan?
Kasi tinatanong ko rin minsan mga fisher, ma'am, anong pangalan ng isda na to? So sinasabi nila yun, baga-baga raw o labahita. Kasi hindi man ako laking dagat namin.
Saan?
Yung kulay green.
Whether they're from the Navy, the Air Force, or the Marines, the soldiers out here all turn into expert fishermen at some point.
Mapadpad.
But while the soldiers keep themselves busy, something at sea drew the attention of the civilians. Finally, a familiar figure comes into view. It's the MV Queen Seagull, and with it, their loved ones. Pag-Asa does not have any port or dock, so the MV Queen Seagull has to anchor far from the beach and let passengers transfer to smaller boats in order for them to reach the shore. At last, families that have been separated by the sea are now together again. Mayor Eugenio Bitonon Jr. watched the townsfolk go down one by one, and only when everyone had gone did he walk to shore himself. No assistants or bodyguards, nor umbrellas to make life easier. Finally, Pag-Asa Island is alive again. Even the children are taught that if the island is attacked, they would seek shelter inside Pag-Asa Elementary. But the constant fear of attack has had an effect on the 4th grader.
Natatakot ka ba sa kanila? Takot ka? Bakit ka natatakot?
Kasi po, baka girahin po.
The following morning, Pag-Asa Island was abuzz with new energy. This day would be different for all of them. Residents and soldiers alike sang the national anthem with a different passion that only a place like this, in a situation like this, could bring out. The Kalayaan municipality only has one barangay or village, and that is Pag-Asa. This is where Mayor Bitonon stays. After all, there are no Filipino civilians anywhere else.
Medyo unique talaga ang Kalayaan kasi yung kapitbahay na mga lugar ay hindi katulad ng mga lugar sa mainland na yung kapitbahay mo barangay o sitio o isang probinsya. Hindi Ang kapitbahay mo, ibang bansa. Isla ng Vietnam, isla ng China, isla ng Taiwan. Hindi barangay.
The mayor has so many plans for his island and for the rest of his municipality.
My vision for Kalayaan is simple. To develop this as a special area or zone for marine fisheries and tourism.
But most of his plans have remained plans to this day. The municipality of Kalayaan has a measly budget. And it hasn't been easy soliciting funds from outside either.
Tatanungin ka lang Mayor, ilan po bang botante natin dyan? Sasabihin ko, meron po tayong 288 na registered voters. Yung project mo, ang laki may higit 1 milyon. Doon sa ganitong barangay, yung botante ron, 3,000. 200 lang yung halos yung botante mo. Doon ko na lang ilalagay yung project. Pagpunta mo naman doon sa taas, sa mga departments, hindi nila alam na mayroon palang municipality of Kalayaan.
With what little money he could get his hands on, Mayor Bitonon built the town inch by inch, little by little. Now they have solar panels for streetlights, goats for when they grow tired of eating fish, a bunch of chickens, and a small school.
Sabay-sabay?
The town built Pag-Asa Elementary School only in 2012. From preschool to the 6th grade, now it has a total of 15 students. China condemned the creation of the school when they found out. This is why Teacher Deb knows that there is something more to this school than just being a place of learning.
Kasi ang alam ko po kasi kapag may school, hindi po basta-basta yung ng Chinese. Kasi siyempre may mga bata, may mga civilian. Ayun po kasi sa balita ngayon, di ba? Parang po kasi pinag-aagawan ito ng China tsaka ng Philippines.
Even the children are taught that if the island is attacked, they would seek shelter inside Pag-Asa Elementary. Teacher Deb's own son, Red, has the evacuation plan memorized. But the constant fear of attack has had an effect on the 4th grader.
Natatakot ka ba sa kanila? Opo. Takot ka? Bakit ka natatakot?
Kasi po, baka girahin po.
Anong sinabi sa inyo pagka nagkaroon ng problema? Anong gagawin ninyo?
Pag doon po kami sa kabilang school po, tapos yung iba dito, magatakbo kami sa kanya-kanyang bahay, tapos kunin po yung mga gamit papuntan dito. Dito na po magtago.
Pag-Asa has a health center where the children and the rest of the town can have their wounds treated. But they will have to make do with nurses, like Darwin, because there is no doctor in Pag-Asa.
All around ka po dito. Doctor ka na, nurse. Kasi, ayun, parang yung function ng doctor is pina-function mo na din. Pinaka-biggest challenge yung parang wala kang supervisor na i-consult before you do any interventions. Parang gano'n.
While everyone was talking about the possibility of attack on the municipality of Kalayaan, the President of the United States came to visit the Philippines. By this time, President Barack Obama had already been to Japan, South Korea, and Malaysia, other countries that have also been having difficulties with China. Obama was welcomed to the Philippines with a freshly signed deal called the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA. Under the EDCA, the Philippines will allow more American troops to use the country's military facilities and allow them to bring their air and naval assets over. The Philippines hopes that the EDCA and renewed American presence will prevent China from being aggressive in the West Philippine Sea.
In other words, our commitment to defend the Philippines is ironclad. And the United States will keep that commitment, because allies never stand alone.
Yes, Obama said these words, but China is also a huge trading partner of the United States. America needs China too. When push comes to shove, can America stay true to its promises to the Philippines?
Vital. So our goal is not to counter China, our goal is not to contain China. Our goal is to make sure that international rules and norms are respected. And that includes in the area of maritime disputes.
Yung nagbatingting kanina, nagbatingting paki-confirm kung ano yun, over.
Rat Gali, over.
Rat Gali?
An urgent clanging of bells roused Pag-Asa Island from its sleep the following day. Suddenly, soldiers came out of their barracks in full battle gear and ran to their posts.
Sector Charlie Papa. Request situation mo dyan, Sector, over. Query ko, yung nagbatingting paki-confirm kung ano yun, over. May fire ba? May fire?
Location, Nagali.
West Sector, Charlie Papa.
Confirm
ba yan? May dalawa kang sightings na warship dyan, correct?
Correct.
Confirm, sir.
Charlie Papa, West Sector, request advice, over.
South Sector, East Sector, Charlie Papa. Target destroyed, over.
If one is to believe the frantic exchanges on the radio, then Pag-Asa Island's worst nightmare has already begun.
Fire yun, fire. Saan kayang fire yun? Saan yun, sir? Sa gali yun. This is Charlie Papa, go ahead, West Sector.
Roger, another request medical team near Gali.
It's a relief to find out that this is all just a drill. This is the annual General Inspection or AGI, an intense exercise that soldiers in the Kalayaan municipality need to perfect.
Ang tawag nila dito AGI, sinusubukan yung kahandaan ng mga sundalo, pati ng mga sibilyan, kung alam nilang gagawin, oras na lusubin sila ng kalaban. Tingnan mo.
Charlie Papa.
Go ahead, Charlie Papa. This is West Sector, over.
Over. Pagkira ang sector, Charlie Papa. Wala na, negative na. Wala na tayong communication equipment. Punta tayo, correct.
Roger, West Sector, on the way.
Yung buhat yung ako na sa bala. Dalaw kayo.
Takbo na bro.
Right.
Commander Mario Argel of the Naval Forces West is in charge of checking if the soldiers are doing it right during the annual general inspection.
Ay, yung senaryo ay na-overrun na lahat yung Air Force, yung Coast Guard. Ang naiwan na lang na installation na pwedeng pakinabangan is yung radio room, which is very vital sa camp defense. It involves lahat ng mga military na assigned dito, the Coast Guard, the Police, and the Philippine Air Force. Mahalaga yung mga drill na ganito para kasi kailangan mayroong coordination. Hindi ka nagpo-practice. Paglabanan, siyempre medyo hindi kayo coordinated.
Things got so intense that it actually started to feel like the real thing. That is, until this little boy stepped in.
Masa ka pupunta?
Kasi doon malalaman kung may imported na
Ikaw lang, ikaw ng casualty. May sundalo pa lang nakatago dito.
Sector, still on position.
Paki-inform mo ako kung abort na dyan yung medical team.
Yung wounded. Ang ito.
Yan! Wala naman kalakban.
But just how far is this from reality? How close is the actual danger from Pag-Asa Island's shores? The wide expanse of the South China Sea serves as rich fishing ground for the countries that surround it. But not everyone extracts resources the right way. This is what's happening just off Pag-Asa Island.
Wala pa tayong 2 kilometro mula sa Pag-Asa Island pero ganito na kagad ang sitwasyon. Sa bilang ko pa lang, mahigit 100 barkong Chinese na ang nakapaligid sa atin ngayon. Iba't ibang laki, iba't ibang hugis at lahat daw sila ang ginagawa rito. Binubunot ang mga corals mula sa ilalim ng dagat, pati na rin yung mga malalaking taklobo sa ilalim, hinahango nila at sinasakay sa mga barkong kagaya nito.
Chinese fishermen were blasting the sand away from coral reefs, then breaking the corals apart to release giant clams hidden underneath. From these smaller boats, the fishermen would then bring the giant clams to cargo ships a few meters away. The ships bore the Chinese flag, and their crew carried on, even if they saw us watching. This murky water is the result of their operation. Piles of dead corals were scattered everywhere. Fisherman Ronnie Kohamko watches this scene every day. and it breaks his heart.
1998 pa lang dito na ako. 2003 pa lang isda kami dito. Isang oras lang kami, puno na yung balde namin ng lapu-lapu dito. Kaya ngayon wala na talaga. Kaya nakakarating na rin kami minsan doon sa Malaymbaura kasi dito wala nang corals dito na kuwan eh. Yung tirahan ng isda.
Ronnie also works for the village, and he knows that local officials have tried many times to drive these Chinese fishermen away. But they just kept coming back until the town's limited fuel supply ran out. Now the townsfolk can do nothing more than just watch from the shore. This is how it is in Pag-Asa, seemingly calm, but not necessarily peaceful.
Ang problema nito, hindi lang naman isang bansa ang iindan niyang mga paninira ng ano na yan ng mga likas yaman. For as long as yung mga bansa rito, hindi sila nagkakasundo at walang tulungan sa pag-iingat ng mga likas yaman na yan, mauubos lahat yan.
This doesn't just happen in Pag-Asa. Poachers of endangered species have been caught by the Philippine Maritime Police in various parts of the West Philippine Sea. And it's not even the marine resources that claimant countries are truly after. It has been discovered that the South China Sea holds massive amounts of oil and natural gas. The United States Energy Information Administration estimates that the South China Sea holds 11 billion barrels of oil and almost 200 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. Large amounts of these are believed to be found in Reed Bank, also called Recto Bank. And where is Recto Bank? Just beside El Nido, Palawan, a mere 80 nautical miles away. It is so close to the Philippines that it was never even part of the disputed areas. It's even closer to the mainland than Ayungin Shoal below it. Just above the Recto Bank is the Malampaya offshore gas rig, which supplies almost half of the power consumed by Luzon. Energy Secretary Jericho Petilla says that oil reserves in Recto Bank could reach more than 167 million barrels, while natural gas deposits are estimated to reach 3.5 trillion cubic feet. But seismic survey data gathered by the British-Filipino energy company Forum Energy, as well as the U.S. Energy Information Administration in the area, provide much higher estimates for both oil and natural gas.
Energy security. It's basically the deposit that we have there can actually give us the security that we need. As I said, after 2022, if the reserves are, the computation is correct that we run out of gas in 2022, then we have a gap, okay, in our energy supply, and we need to replace that. The only thing that we can think of right now, if there are no other developments, is importing, which is what we're trying to avoid. So it's really indigenous supply that we're looking for right now.
In 2011, a Forum Energy ship that was supposed to conduct more drilling activities in Recto Bank was blocked by Chinese ships and had to turn back to shore. The Philippines filed a diplomatic protest condemning China's incursion in an area claimed by the Philippines, one that has never even been contested before. What changed? Why does China want the Recto Bank now? The reason? China itself saw just how much oil and natural gas there was. In 2004, China, Vietnam, and the Philippines signed an agreement for a joint exploration of the South China Sea. The three nations were to explore nearly the entire Spratlys Islands, including areas already owned by the Philippines, such as Recto Bank. In August 2014, Chinese ships were again spotted in the Recto Bank, a clear indication that the economic superpower has not forgotten what is out there.
Alisin mo yung oil and natural gas, siguro hindi na mag-aambisyon yung mga usaping mga akin ito, akin yan. Kasi very obvious. China has become a world power. Paano niya masustain yung pagiging world power kung wala siyang enough energy resource?
stop immediately, stop all illegal activities.
China's recent actions have created ripples of tension in the South China Sea. If this tension escalates, even non-claimant nations using the South China Sea as shipping lanes could be affected as well. Around $5 trillion, or about 130 trillion pesos worth of goods, pass through the South China Sea every year. Anyone who takes control of these waters secures a better economic future for themselves and gains greater power in the region. Could this be why China has not let anyone stand in its way?
Từ góc quay này của phóng viên truyền hình Việt Nam, quý vị và các bạn có thể thấy rõ.
From May until June of 2014, China and Vietnam exchanged water cannon bursts and rammed each other's ships several times. It all started when China installed an oil rig near the Paracel Islands that is claimed by both countries. If hostilities like this would ever happen to the Philippines, would the country be able to handle it?
Stand by for radar check.
There's a new mission up ahead for the BRP Apolinario Mabini. The warship will start its voyage from the dock of the Oyster Bay Detachment, or OBD as it's often called. OBD is the military detachment closest to the West Philippine Sea. The pier is dilapidated, the wood crumbling beneath the sailors' feet. But Oyster Bay is crucial to the defense of the West Philippine Sea. Ships sailing off from here are almost always bound for the Spratlys Islands.
Ipopos yung mga piston. Distance, the Dustin.
Nearest shoreline, starboard quarter, 700.
The BRP Apolinario Mabini, or Patrol Ship 36, is one of the warships standing guard over the Spratlys Islands.
Pistons siya, inside window, so yung may truck sa baba.
Commander Fernando Naval is the ship's captain.
Kami yung nagsisecure sa ating maritime territories. Yung mga interest natin dito sa West Philippine Sea na mga protektuhan, mga kasamahan natin sa mga island na papagbigyan ng mga kailangan nila para mag-survive sa kanilang detachment. Kagaya ng pagkain, inumin.
The Apolinario Mabini will visit some of the Filipino military detachments in Kalayaan to check on the soldiers' needs.
All engines back one.
One of their stops is Rizal Reef, 167 nautical miles from mainland Palawan. The troops here got a welcome break from isolation when the crew of Apolinario Mabini arrived. Their drums of water were refilled, their generators repaired, Rizal Reef is the water world of all Philippine military detachments. Without visitors, it gets pretty quiet in the Rizal Reef. Private First Class Leander Junedo says it's precisely this calm that's been getting on their nerves.
Unang araw, pangalawa, pangatlo, okay pa yan, ma'am eh. Yung, diyan pa yung masaya kaya, nakarating din ako dito. Pero pag tumatagal, ma'am, na 1 linggo, 2 linggo, diyan naman yung lungkot. Yung nababagot ka, ikot-ikot, ganyan.
Soldiers who are sent here need to seal themselves for a 3-month stay on barracks that are floating above water.
Hindi makabasag pinggan yung katahimikan dito, ma'am eh. Kumbaga kung mag-ingay lang, ma'am, yung alon. Yung alon niya pag mag-high tide siya, ma'am.
The Marines tell stories of soldiers who have lost their minds here. One soldier, they say, started wading away from the detachment and never came back.
Kung kikimkimin mo lang yung lungkot na nararamdaman mo, wala. Babaliw ka dito, ma'am. Kaya dapat dito, ma'am, patibayan ng utak eh. Nandito kayo, ma'am, pandalian saya lang to, ma'am. Pero pag nawala kayo, yun na naman, back to normal na naman.
Another stop is Lawak Island. The waters were crystal clear, but they say the magic of Lawak isn't even in the water. In order to truly appreciate the island, you need to look up.
Sa lahat ng mga kampo ng Pilipinas dito sa Kalayaan Island Group, ito ang pinakakaiba sa Lawak Island. Kasama ng mga sundalo, libo-libong mga sigaw. Nangingitlog dito lang sa tabing dagat at kasama nila dito sa gitna ng West Philippine Sea.
Soldiers assigned here are much more fortunate than those on Rizal Reef. They have a long stretch of beach to walk on for one, and they have animals to play with too.
Malaking tulong, ma'am, yung sigal. Bukod pa magandang nakakalibang, ma'am, pag tuwing hapon, napakarami ng palipad-lipad yan. Maaliw ka, baka bawas lungkot habang tinitingin mo yung mga ibon.
Petty Officer 2 Abraham Likop has been assigned to other detachments before, so he knows just how lucky they are now. But as an engineer, Likop worries about the condition of the building they sleep in.
Hindi, kumulakas, ma'am. Hindi mo klotso ito.
Ito?
Yes, ma'am. Kasi ang po dito, pag mahangin, pag malakas ang hangin, maglaglaga na yung ma'am eh. Yun ang maglaglaga na yan, no? Gaya yung nakikita mo ito. Magtipak yan, ganyan.
Likop hopes that their leaders will find out about their living conditions, but it was okay, he said, if they couldn't do anything about it for now. It seems every camp has its own set of problems. Patag Island is only 6 nautical miles away from Lawak Island, but out here, the struggle begins even before you reach its shores.
Low tide na. Abot ng rubber boat sa kampo. Pupuntahan natin. Ang ginagawa nila pagka masyado na nababaw. Parasado sila magilakad. Kahit gano'ng kalayo, kahit marami yung dala nila.
It was a long, tiring march toward the island that looked deceivingly close. But everyone managed to land safely on the Patag Island detachment. Patag is so small that it would take someone maybe 3 minutes to walk from one end of the island to the other.
Maliit talaga yun kasi ikot to, doon lang din. Pagbalik mo dito, makita mo rin mga tropa mo. Wala kang mag-ibang makita. Sa kabila, ganun din.
There is no source of fresh water here. So the soldiers have devised a way to catch the rain when it comes. The unobstructed heat of the sun burns the skin and stings the eye. But Technical Sergeant Jonathan Kureg is grateful for the sunlight because it powers the solar panels that in turn give them power all day long. They're okay here, Kureg says, especially when they get to buy goodies from the ships and when visitors stop by for a chat.
Kahit na ganito yung islet natin na mapuntahan, at least magkaroon ng tao dito. Sacrifice. Kaya natin bantayan ito. Kahit ganito, kakayanin.
Commander Naval admits that the West Philippine Sea is far too big for the current fleet to fully protect.
Kulang kami, malawak yung area ng West Philippine Sea. So kailangan pag pabalik kami may constant yung ikot, hindi lang isa, dalawa. Hindi natin nalalaman yung nasa below the surface. Hindi natin ma-detect kung ano meron dyan.
But until help arrives, Naval and the rest of the crew are prepared to do the most that they can and cover as much area as their ship is able to reach.
Kaya hanggang sa pinaka-last drop of our blood.
Paano kung binangga nila yung resupply ship? Ano yung mga sakay na? Di ba? Paano kung yung threat nila na i-take over yung ayungin, gawin nila? Paano yung mga tao natin doon?
The weather shifted on the way to the island called Parola. The waters turned choppy, only improving as the rubber boats came closer to shore. Parola is one of the Philippines' biggest islands in the Spratlys. From the shores of Parola, one can see a fortified island so close but controlled by Vietnam. This is Pugad Island, smaller than Parola, but with a concrete pier, a functioning lighthouse, stone houses for its troops, and its own cell site. Pugad is worlds away from the wooden barracks of the Filipino soldiers.
Nakaka-apekto sa kanila yun. In the sense na sana darating araw na malampasan natin yung nakikita nila.
Perhaps what makes it worse is that Pugad Island even used to be controlled by the Philippines. Different versions have gone around about how Vietnam managed to snatch the island from the hands of the Filipinos back in the 70s. But one thing's for sure, Vietnam never let go of Pugad again. How do the Philippine encampments fare when compared to the camps of others in the Spratlys? These are only a few of the military detachments owned by Vietnam. There is Landau Reef, Discovery Great Reef, and Cornwallis Reef, all with huge weaponry, radars, and wind turbines for electricity. These are some of the garrisons of China: Fiery Cross Reef, Johnson Reef, Quarteron Reef, and Subi Reef. also with high-powered guns, anti-aircraft weaponry, and helipads. But this one is the most unique, Layang-Layang Island, held by Malaysia. Not only does it have anti-aircraft weapons, Layang-Layang has also been turned into a first-class dive resort and hotel, with a swimming pool and all. Meanwhile, back in Philippine camps, troops are still arguing about the lack of food. These are problems that could lead to resentment. So Lieutenant Ferdinand Gato is here to explain to the soldiers why the government cannot provide everything just yet.
Kailangan natin ipaliwanag yung mga katulad ng mga pagkain nila kasi hindi tayong bansa na napakayaman na naibibigay natin yung sapat na pagkain nila. Pagkain ng isang sundalo sa isang araw ay 90 pesos. So sa isang araw kailangan ito lang ang pwede mong kainin kasi ito lang ang nakayanan ng gobyerno natin.
Retired General Emmanuel Bautista, the former Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, suffered sleepless nights thinking how he could defend the West Philippine Sea with such limited capability.
Paano kung binangga nila yung natin resupply ship? Ano yung mga sakay nun? Di ba? Paano kung yung threat nila na i-take over yung ayungin, gawin nila? Paano yung mga tao natin doon? And those are real threats that our people there face. Isipin mo yun. Ano gagawin natin pag nangyari yun? Yun ang source ng stress. Yung we need to prepare hurriedly for an emerging threat, and a big one at that.
Bautista recounts how the Philippine military spent many years and much resources battling threats from within, like communist rebellion and the Abu Sayyaf.
In the past, nakafocus tayo sa internal security issues natin. Ngayon pa lang tayo nagigising sa katotohanan na meron palang banta sa natin. We need to really invest in our defense.
The Armed Forces has requested 85 billion pesos to modernize its ranks within the next 15 years. Almost half of this amount will be spent acquiring new warships and other equipment for the territorial defense of the West Philippine Sea. 28 billion pesos will be allocated for the improvement of Philippine air power to defend the seas from above. Already, new acquisitions have begun to arrive. The Navy is now using 3 of the 8 multi-role helicopters purchased by the government. 2 Hamilton-class cutters, the BRP Ramon Alcaraz and the BRP Gregorio del Pilar, have now been sailing as the country's most powerful warships to date.
Medyo malayo pa kasi dekada yung pinag-uusapan natin na hindi tayo nag-invest. Hindi overnight ma-acquire yan eh. Unang-una, a lot of resources are needed, funding. It's not cheap to develop capabilities.
The Philippine defense budget is almost the same as Vietnam's, but miles away from China's defense budget. China has more than 1,000 fighter jets, while the Philippines has yet to receive its first. China also leads in having the most number of vessels at sea, while the Philippines has the most number of corvettes or small warships, just like the BRP Apolinario Mabini.
Bangka-bangka lang yung ginagamit namin. Meron na kaming rubber boat with OBM, meron na kaming generator, meron na kaming solar. So, padahan-dahan na, nai-improve na rin yung kalagayan ng mga tropa natin.
5.60.
But what will the Philippines do in the meantime? These naval engineers have been going around the Kalayaan Islands, taking note of every repair, improvement, and construction that needed to be made, so that when funding comes, they already know which ones to prioritize.
Even if wala tayong ganong klaseng kapabilidad, hindi ibig sabihin na hindi tayo lalaban. Because they should not underestimate the will of the Filipino people to fight for his rights and to fight for our territory.
But if the Philippines cannot fight weapon for weapon, how then does it expect to defend itself?
I went through all the ancient maps of China, from the Song Dynasty to the Republic of China. There is no ancient map of China which shows Scarborough Shoal or the Spratlys as part of China. Never.
There will be no fishing for Sergeant Soliva tonight. In the darkness, he again becomes a defender of Pag-Asa Island. Every night, soldiers from different units take turns going on foot patrol around Pag-Asa.
Hinahanap pa naman yung gaya nito, mga sightings o may nakatikit sa isla na ito. Yun ang isang purpose na yun, para security reason. Tapos kung may mga, siyempre, baka minsan napasukan na pala tayo ng Kaya ginagawa namin, ma'am, is mag-rotate na. Every 2 hours, inikot itong isla, ma'am.
Navy. Tuwing gabi talaga, nagkakanda kami ng shoreline patrol para...
Seaman Second Class Rolly Diong of the Coast Guard and his buddy from the Air Force say they count each and every light that's visible from the island and they report it to their superiors.
Pag lumalapit yan sila, sir, yan talaga, sir, sinisita yan, talaga inataboy sila, sir. Pero kung sa mga ganyan layo, sir, hindi yan, sir. Malayo masyado yan, sir. Kunwari, ano lang yan, kung nakikita yun, sir, parang napakalapit, pero malayo yan, sir. Yung ilaw lang nila, yung ilaw lang talaga nila napakalakas.
Of course, they'd rather have patrol boats with them, so they could actually find out more about the lights they see, rather than just count how many. But like the rest of their companions out there in the West Philippine Sea, these guys are making do with what they have. With the exception of Ayung and Shoal, Pag-Asa and the other parts of the municipality of Kalayaan don't see much action. But the soldiers here can't relax just yet, because the entire area being claimed by the Philippines in the Spratlys has fallen under what is called China's 9-dash line. The 9-dash line is China's newest demarcation of territory. In 2009, Beijing submitted a map to the United Nations showing that they now claim almost 80% of the entire South China Sea. The 9-dash line also eats into the entire Spratly Islands, which China calls Nansha. It claims that its territory includes all the other areas also being held by Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan. The Philippines refused to acknowledge the 9-dash line, as did the other claimant countries. The claimants accused China of defying the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea, an agreement they all signed, which sought to make sure that no one would make any more moves that could escalate tension in the area. But what makes China believe that it is entitled to almost the entire South China Sea? The Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs has consistently invoked historical accounts to back up its claims. But Philippine Supreme Court Associate Justice Antonio Carpio Jr. has challenged this assertion.
They don't specify what are these historical facts. They don't even explain what is the legal basis under international law. So what do we do about it? Well, we've decided to go back into history and find out if this claim of China about abundant historical facts is actually true. This is the 1136 Sung Dynasty map.
Justice Carpio traveled to China in search of its ancient maps. There he found a stone map from the Sung Dynasty dating as far back as 1136 BC.
That stone map is still in China. It's in a museum in China, Museum of Stone Maps. And it shows there that the southernmost territory of China is Hainan.
This is Hainan Island, more than 600 nautical miles away from the Spratlys Islands.
I went through all the ancient maps of China, from the Song Dynasty to the Republic of China. And all these maps show that the southernmost territory of China has always been Hainan Island. There is no ancient map of China which shows Scarborough Shoal or the Spratlys as part of China. Never were these territories part of China in the ancient maps of China.
But despite all challenges to their reasoning, China has proceeded to act on claiming the 9-dash line. In 2012, the Philippine Navy attempted to arrest Chinese fishermen on board 8 boats that were found extracting endangered species from a place called Scarborough Shoal.
Nung ginawa po natin yon, dumating yung barko ng Chino at sinabing hindi niyo pwedeng hulihin yan.
This triggered the Scarborough Shoal standoff.
At simula nun, hinaharang na nila tayo na magpunta doon.
Scarborough is 137 nautical miles off the Philippine province of Zambales. Filipino fishermen call it Panatag Shoal or Bajo de Masinloc. And for the longest time, the Philippines has considered Scarborough as part of its territory.
Nandun po tayo ng mahabang panahon at hindi naman po na-question yung ating presence doon. Pag tinignan niyo po yung history natin on Scarborough Shoal, since the time ng Spaniards, Amerikano at tayo, meron tayong effective control.
Kasi noong una, ang Scarborough Shoal, yan ginagamit for target practice ng US Navy. Hindi nagre-reklamo ang China noon. Sabi nila, kanila raw yan, pero tahimik lang sila. Pero kung nandyan, baka iba ang istorya.
Former National Security Advisor Roy Logoles, who is now co-convener of the West Philippine Sea Coalition, points out that Scarborough lies within what is called the 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. Under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, this means that the Philippines should be the one to exclusively exploit and control the resources within it. But now, China has taken control of Scarborough Shoal.
I look at it as a clear and present danger to our territory, to our security. Yung pag-agaw nilang yan, hindi lamang dagat, no? Yung ating exclusive economic zone. Hindi lamang yung isda na maaaring makuha natin, yung mga marine resources. Ang aking tingin, ang target nila talaga dyan, yung mga oil resources. Pangalawa, yung security. Kasi dyan, hindi lang yung basta kukunan ka ng property, ng teritoryo, kundi maglalagay sila ng mga military structures. Katulad ginawa nila sa Mischief Reef.
To this day, no Filipino ship nor boat has been allowed to enter Scarborough. For the Philippine government, this was the last straw.
Kailangan pong mag-isip tayo ng ibang pamamaraan na para hindi maisakatuparan nila yung kanilang gustong mangyari at para maprotektahan natin ang ating teritoryo din, ang ating dagat. Kung kaya naisipan natin, unang-una, yung arbitration.
Arbitration is a legal process that allows an independent third party to resolve certain disputes. In 2013, the Philippines filed its arbitration case against China before the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague, the Netherlands.
While we proceed with the legal track, the Philippines continues to exert all efforts to move forward and enhance its relations with China on the basis of mutual respect. We strongly believe that this action is the appropriate response to put our diplomatic relations in its proper context. We hope that China will join us in this aspiration.
This is the first time that any nation has ever filed a case against China about its maritime claims in the South China Sea. The Philippines directly challenged China's 9-dash line claim and asked China to respect the maritime areas designated by the UNCLOS. China rejected the arbitration case and refused to participate in any of the proceedings. On March 30, 2014, the Philippines submitted 4,000 pages worth of evidence that refuted China's claim. This was a day after the Philippine Navy encountered the Chinese blockade on Ayungin Shoal. Assistant Secretary Bensurto believes that rather than fighting fire with fire, the Philippines had a much better chance of winning its battles in the South China Sea by legal means.
Maraming pamamaraan na maipakita ang tapang. Hindi lang tapang, but you have to be also smart. Malakas sila sa military, so maybe the strategy is to provoke us so that we respond militarily. Alam natin kung sino mananalo in the military confrontation. We have to get them to our own battlefield. You see, they're avoiding our battlefield because they know they will not win that.
The arbitral tribunal gave China until December of 2014 to submit its counter-arguments. But again, China refused. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Hong Lei had strong words to say about the Philippines. He questioned the timing of bringing the media to Ayungin Shoal or Renai Reef just as the government submitted its evidence for arbitration. He also accused the Philippines of covering up its illegal occupation of Ayungin by hiding behind the arbitration case.
What they're saying is, even if they don't...
Allegations that are refuted by the Department of Foreign Affairs.
Gusto ko ipaliwanag na ang objective natin dito hindi gumawa ng kaaway. Never in our mind did we entertain to make an enemy of China. Kaya lang, ang hirap yatang makipagkamayan sa kaibigan kung yung paa niya nakatapak sa paa ko. So siguro, ang gusto lang natin sabihin, kaibigan kita, gusto ko makipagkamayan sa'yo, pero pwede mo bang tanggalin yung paa mo sa paa ko?
But China is not done yet. Aside from fortifying its older military garrisons, the Philippine military has discovered that China has been reclaiming or making entirely new islands in the Spratlys. Reclaimed islands have been spotted in Mabini Reef, Malvar Reef, Gavin Reef, Quarteron Reef, and Chigwa Reef. One of these new islands even seemed to have an airstrip in the works. China's explanation is simple. The Spratlys or Nansha Islands are theirs, and they are free to do anything with it. Security experts fear that if these disputes are not resolved soon, tension could escalate into something far worse than just a war of words. This is a scenario that the Philippines wants to avoid, whether they are ready for it or not.
We are hoping it will not lead to war, and we want to make sure that there is no war by trying to prevent war, by trying to be prepared so that there will be nobody who will attempt to wage war against us.
Vietnamese Ambassador Trong Tru Dong says Vietnam doesn't want to go into war either, but they say they will not shy away from battle if it comes to that.
We have used our armed forces against foreign aggressions in the past, and you know that we have never lost the war. To defend the country, to defend the sovereignty has become something deep in our heart and in our blood.
With all this talk of war, all this clamor for new weapons, and all these threats of one country attacking the next, one would think that the townsfolk surrounded by all of this would already be cowering in fear.
Ang iyong malayang pagpapasya upang magpakasal kay Roderick.
But look at their faces. Does that seem like fear to you? With the rising of the sun, the very edge of a military airstrip, and well within sight of Chinese ships.
Isusuot ko sa'yo.
4 couples in Pag-Asa Island stand before Mayor Bitoonon to exchange their promises of forever. One of the brides is teacher Debs of Pag-Asa Elementary School. In the audience is her little son Red, grinning from ear to ear. A wedding toast on plastic cups, a wedding cupcake from the community store, and wedding kisses so sweet that Pag-Asa Island erupted in happy cheer. They may live close to danger, but right at this very moment, danger is the farthest from everyone's minds. This is Pag-Asa, or hope in its purest form. This is hope that they fight for, hope that they hold dear, and hope that they will never give up to anyone.
Marami palang Pilipino ang umiikot ang buhay dito sa West Philippine Sea. Nandiyan ang mga sibilyan na pilit ginagawang normal ang pamumuhay nila kahit hindi naman talaga normal ang sitwasyon. Nandiyan din ang mga sundalo na minsan dinadaan na lang sa tapang ang kakulangan sa gamit at puwersa. Kasing lawak ng dagat ang problemang hinaharap ng Pilipinas dito. Kaya sa susunod na mapatingin ka sa mapa at makita mo ang kulay asul ng West Philippine Sea, sana maalala mo sila, mga ordinaryong Pinoy na inilalaban itong kalayaan sa kani-kanilang paraan.
Hindi, bigyan niya kay Galop. Unti-unti.
Walang magawa.
Yung hampas ng atin.
Plano.